So right, sir.
देखिए जी, कहानी ये है, और तो कहानी सच ये होती है। कहानी जब कैमरा ऑन होता है ना, कहानी कैमरे ऑन वाली भी नहीं होती। कहानी कैमरा ऑन रहने से 15-20 मिनट पहले की कहानी शुरू होती है। तो ये जो लाइव ऑन यूट्यूब, जो हम लाइव यहाँ पे गए हैं, we had gone live once before our tech check. So we generally meet about 20 minutes before the show to discuss what the flow of the show is, meet and greet everyone, क्या चल रहा है, क्या हाल चाल है। उस दौरान हमारे जो सेक्सी दाढ़ी वाले भाई हैं, हाँ, जो हाल ही में अभी पूरे भारतवर्ष अपनी स्कॉर्पियो में करके आए हैं, उनसे गलती से लाइव हम चले गए। तो हम बातें कर रहे थे, ओ, और फिर बंद कर दिया क्योंकि लाइव चले गए, तो वो हट गया वहां पे। लेकिन यहाँ पे अब सब तैयार थे लाइव के लिए, लेकिन तब भी तैयार नहीं हुए, और बीच में हाँ ऐसे चल गया। दैट्स द ब्यूटी ऑफ द शो, कि कभी भी कुछ भी कैसे भी चल जाता है इस शो पे। आप देख रहे हैं 420 ग्राम्स, पिछले संडे आए थे, फिर से आपके सामने संडे को आ गए हैं। और भाई हमारा जो यूजुअल सस्पेक्ट्स हैं, the OGs of the show are all with us here. Jaydeep Basu is with us. Siddhant Aini is with us. Sharda Ugra is joining us today as well. Good to see you, Sharda. And we're talking about three things in particular. One, the AFC Asian Cup, the Women's Asian Cup starts on the 20th of this month. Omicron is looming above it. So you could call it Omicron presents AFC Asian Cup. क्योंकि भाई जिस तरीके से खट 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 केसेस बढ़ रहे हैं, हम तो ये सोच रहे हैं कि होगा नहीं होगा, क्या होगा, कैसे होगा, बबल बनेगा, किस तरीके का बबल बनेगा, उसके बारे में चर्चा करेंगे। उसके बाद जो ISL है, जिसमें अभी तक हमने ये नहीं देखा था कि कोविड ने अड़चन डाली है, कोविड ने अब अड़चन डाल दी। हाल ही में ओडिशा वर्सेस ATA मोहन बगान FC, the game had to be postponed because there was a positive case in the ATK camp, and after that a ruling has come from the ISL, which we will talk about. And finally, जय हमारे जो फ्रेंड ऑफ द शो हैं, जो ये करते हैं, ये समझ में नहीं आया टच लाइन पे ये किस किस्म का ये यहाँ पे न्योता होता है अपने प्लेयर्स का। Renedy Singh, coach of Sri Cement Football. We're all going to, of course, talk about him and just tell him how, or rather talk about how refreshing it was to see Renedy Bhai on the touchline and an Indian coach on the touchline, so animated on the touchline. So we'll talk about that as well. I'll start with Jaydeep sir. Sir, 20th is when it's starting. मैंने हाल ही में जो उनके LOC हैं, that is local organizing committee, उनसे पूछा तो उन्होंने कहा जी 15 तारीख 14-15 तारीख is when you're expecting teams to come. You're expecting teams to come in. They
1
will be
week
tested.
before.
Yeah, 1 week before. They will be tested and they will be put into quarantine. As soon as you turn negative, you can go out and start training. So that was the only thing that they've said. And so far, it has the blessings of the government, the ruling government in Maharashtra. It has the blessings of the federation. They are completely into it. The AFC team that is organizing the tournament is already in Mumbai. They're already in their bubble. And they are going about their business. So, sir, Omicron or no Omicron, AFC Asian Women's Cup is going ahead as planned?
Yeah, I think so, because government has granted the quarantine, exempted them from quarantine. The players won't have to go through that 7-day quarantine. That
हाँ, आप नेगेटिव आ गया 24 घंटे में तो आप निकलो बाहर।
हाँ नहीं, वो तो straight away they will from the airport they will get into the sanitized bus, come to the hotel, and I think they will be tested at the airport. And if they have come negative, then they will start practicing or whatever. So, of course, they will be staying in the bubble throughout. But Asian Cup so far is happening, definitely happening. Because AFC wanted it to happen, and at the same time, the Maharashtra government had been very helpful to the cause. So is the government of India. So as far until unless something major happens, that's a different issue altogether. Some team is suddenly 15 players have tested positive and all. That's a different issue. But so far, it is happening between February 20 and January 20 and February 6. It's happening.
And all teams are expected to come. No one is saying कि जी आपके वहाँ पे देश में बढ़ रहा है इतना case waste.
So far, nobody has said so. As far as I know, till today evening, nobody has said so. At least if somebody is reluctant or verbally said something, that's a different issue altogether. But nobody has officially said they don't want to cover anything. So it is happening. All 12 teams are ready. One team is India, of course. All 11 teams are ready to come. I think.
Sharda, it's also, it gives you a sense, right, that what the world has sort of said कि जी ये अब Omicron आ गया, कल कुछ और आ गया, कल कुछ और आ गया, ये आते रहेगा या नहीं आएगा. We have to go ahead and we have to go ahead with the feeling that agar beech mein अड़चन आई of someone testing positive, then so be it. ऐसा नहीं है कि tournament रद्द हो जाएगा. You'll have to find a way of moving forward from that as well.
So I think what has happened is that because Delta last time was so scary and they had so many postponements and they kind of went through with it, it's also, there's almost a sense of reassurance catch up, even though numbers are going up, the other news that we're getting is fine. It's not that sort of level of severity, and they're using examples of what we are seeing elsewhere. I think they had Asian Champions League also was held in India at some point. So there's some confidence in Goa. There's some confidence from that. To move the women's Asian Cup into these three venues, even though the numbers are crazy in Maharashtra, is being seen as a way that okay, we can manage this. I think they assume there's a sense that if someone is tested positive, we'll work a way around it. We'll have some kind of way to do it, and you have super hyper bubble and micro bubble and concrete bubble and whatever else levels of bubbles that they have. They're just going to kind of work their way through it and see that we have to have this event and let's see, because we want to hold the women's under 17 World Cup also afterwards. So this is almost like a trial in that sense for that bigger tournament.
Right, Annie bhai, it's sort of कि मतलब मैं तो ऐसे सुन रहा हूँ लोगों को ओमिक्रॉन हो रहे हैं बॉम्बे में इधर उधर आप मतलब आपकी कंटिंजेंट आ रही है 25-30 लोगों की through one airport going to another airport traveling to this thing, कहीं ना कहीं तो ये अड़चन आएगी ही, whether you like it or not. है ना, it's going to come whether or not. The point is, how do you react to it, right? How do you react to it, and how do you not let the tournament take a hit? That is the main thing.
Yeah, but I think fair enough. I mean, they've mandated that, like you guys are all saying, the governments are in full support, right? Which means that all of the states' machinery and paraphernalia will be engaged to make sure that it happens without too many hitches, which is the only way in which anything can happen, at least in this state, by and large. The other thing is, in terms of how to react, I think the FIFA will have set some sort of broad overall conditions. I'm sure AFC will have a medical team that will be on it all the time, coordinating with local authorities and the LOC and all of that. And so I think mandating that teams arrive 1 week before the tournament officially begins should allow for enough room to be able to deal with what might happen, to mitigate the risk of the travel element, which is the biggest, I think, risk.
You think it's enough? Because the thing is, a lot of people, while contracting it, are testing positive on day 5 after contracting it.
Yeah. So there will be a lot of tests, definitely. There will be a lot of testing.
I just want to, everyone in various bubbles are getting tested every 72 hours already. So that whole thing has started. Some teams are apparently coming on charter. I don't know whether that makes a difference or not, but eventually you are going to...
No, it does, I guess, because you go through a different terminal. You don't go through the commercial terminal. Then on the plane itself, you are not in contact with...
anybody other than...
I'm not sure how many teams can afford to come by charter. Okay, three teams out of the 12. India, of course, already are in country. So that leaves...
India's in Kerala, but they're also traveling from Kerala to Bombay, right? So that's again travel, whether you do international or domestic. Aap ja rahe ho. I don't know about charter.
I doubt very much. It's unlikely. Yeah, unless perhaps someone like Reliance, who are the commercial partners of the federation, have offered them one of their private jets to take them from their training camp to the.
ऐसी कोई खबर आई तो है नहीं, so far by assuming they're going normal. जो आपका domestic travel होता है.
Yeah.
They'll be traveling through.
So travel is the big risk, but once I guess, I mean, perhaps they should have mandated it 2 weeks prior to tournament kickoff.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, bhai.
But maybe they have some leeway in terms of extending the dates or postponing games a little bit. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure on that part of it. Although it would be tougher to do given broadcast sort of commitments, AFC commitments, etc., and the fact that it's an international tournament, not a domestic one. So I guess the room to maneuver is a bit less. but 12-team tournament with a 2-week window, in any case, is a bit tight.
Oh, okay.
Even in non sort of pandemic circumstances, to have a glitch-free tournament with a group stage as well as a knockout stage in such a sort of condensed period is always going to be a challenging thing. Hopefully, they've got their shit locked down. And I mean, we really hope, because while men's football has been happening at various levels around the world since the pandemic has broken out, particularly in India, and of course, this was supposed to be a celebration of women's football at an Asian level, first exposure for many people in India to elite level of continental competition for women. And that therefore it's being held in Maharashtra, where I remember almost like 7-8 years ago going to Kolhapur when a young Netherlands under-19 kind of under-19 under-20 team had come, and they were playing some exhibition games with the national senior team at that point, and there were 25,000-30,000 people showing up for these games.
वो कोल्हापुर है भाई पर उनकी अलग कहानी है.
And the Dutch girls and their coaching staff and all of that were so amazed that they were on the pitch and dancing for like half an hour after, because they were like, in Europe we'll never get these kind of crowds, you know. So part of the reason why this tournament came to India is because people in these parts where the tournament is being held are quite into it, and they were hoping for large crowds, large public participation. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. But given the circumstances, I think they're doing the best they can, and it's very important to get this kind of competitive action going for women as well.
Yeah, I guess so. And plus they've got the groove going. It'll get wasted completely. इतने टाइम से आपकी टीम बन रही है, सेट हो रही है, 5-6 महीने से लगे हुए हैं यहाँ पे, कैंप में लगे हुए हैं. They're going to various places to play and giving a good account of themselves as well. जयदीप सर, टीम के बारे में तो अभी टाइम है. 20 तारीख को पहला मैच है उनका, आई थिंक ईरान के खिलाफ है. ग्रुप भी अच्छा है, उसके बारे में भी बाद में चर्चा करेंगे. बट फ्रॉम अ LOC पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, LOC being the local organizing committee and that being the AIFF, I'm not talking AFC, is this being seen as a challenge, a bit of a challenge to go glitch free, or you're going in with the assumption that there will be glitches? It's part of the game nowadays and you move ahead with that.
I think LOC is already prepared for it, because they had already held the Under-17 World Cup 4 years ago. So they know what could be the advantages and disadvantages. And there will be glitches in every walk of life. There are glitches.
No,
so
by glitch I mean Omicron. By glitch I mean COVID.
Oh,
no
that is so nobody can say about it. There could be they may be lucky not to get anything. But the thing is that when you are playing without public, that also gives you a lot of advantage. Yeah, that advantage is with it, unfortunately, but that advantage is with the organizing committee. See, when we organized the Under-17 World Cup in India, you remember India matches in Delhi, how much public were there? So that itself is a problem. On the first day, there was problem about water.
Yeah,
I remember the LOC chairman, that gentleman from Chile, I forget his name. I saw him carrying water on his own and going up to the first floor, distributing among people. It was very nice of him. But all those problems you don't face when you have no public in the stands. Only thing, you have to manage your own people. That is the thing. I think their task is easier at the moment, and they are going into, see, India matches where at Andheri, na? India matches Andheri.
No, Navi Mumbai, DY Patil.
India DY Patil. So I think the venues are also compact, better venues. So you are not playing at the Salt Lake Stadium or at the Jawaharlal Stadium in Delhi. Even Pune, of course. Well, the Pune is quite a huge ground, but that is also far.
DY Patil is also a big stadium, but
a big stadium, but not compared to what it
but
the other.
जो आप बात कह रहे थे कि जनता नहीं आ रही है, तो that removes a lot of the.
lot.
Then
But
the bigger it is, the better it is, I guess.
But again, coming back to Arjun's question, which is very rightly Arjun has pointed out. When there is a shadow of COVID over your head, you have to be extra careful. In 2017, all these problems nobody faced, nobody knew about it. So you didn't have to be extra. This time you have to be extra careful, because one wrong step, we have seen what has happened in ISL, what has happened in I-League. If it happens in Asian Cup, that would be a huge embarrassment. I hopefully not. But the thing is that what I have seen from my experience, when it comes to an international tournament, in under 16 Asian Championship in Goa also, the same thing happened, which I saw, that the AFC team which comes, there are a lot of people come from the AFC. They virtually take over the stadium.
Yeah.
The LOC is pushed. Unfortunately, LOC I have seen, they have been pushed to the background. It is the AFC team which dictate terms. They will say what to be done and what not to be done. So all put together, I hope it will be without glitches. It will go on smoothly.
Sharda, आपने कुछ छानबीन और करी?
Sorry, I think just on the last point that Jaydeep was mentioning. I think, of course, while the LOC and the AFC teams for the tournament work together, the AFC appointed guys who come in often come in kind of supervisory roles, so therefore they have the last word on many of the things that go down. We saw the same. I was there in Goa for the Champions League when it happened around this time last year. In fact, March, April last year, sometime around then. Yeah, when again we were kind of on the verge of another outbreak, and in fact the last games of that competition were also hit by it. But they did conclude it, and I concur with what Jaydeep was saying in that, like, when it comes to international events that we are taking, I guess, the responsibility to host, I think a lot more care is taken to ensure that things go according to plan. And no doubt the fact that not having crowds saves the LOC a lot of money. So they are able to devote that much more resource to making sure that the people who are inside this biosecure bubble are taken better care of, both if they get sick and to prevent them getting sick.
Fair point. वैसे हमारे 420 grams के वैभव रघुनंदन होंगे वहाँ पे, sick or no sick, उनको भेज दिया गया है, ड्यूटी पर डाल दिया गया है सिद्धांत भाई से.
But
so he will be covering it.
The access for the press is very restricted, very restricted. Unlike what happened at the Champions League, where testing for members of the press was organized centrally by, I guess, the AFF in consultation with the AFC. This time they have said that members of the press will have to test independently. Even then, you are not guaranteed access to neither the stadium.
You're in one part of the stadium, na? आप वहाँ पे हो, वो आपकी जगह है.
No, in the press tribune, of course.
Press tribune and press conferences online and the other thing also.
No in-person press conferences, no in-person interviews.
So no close contact with anyone, basically.
And I think no access to training and other things as well.
So no access to training also.
I don't think so. Yeah. Given the way things are, so in terms of press coverage, I think there's very little to be expected from this tournament. From that point of view, because there is absolutely no access.
So then I know the headlines that are coming from the India camp. It's a glorious year. It's a glorious game, and the girls are doing so well. Let's go! Come on, India! Lovely. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Sharda, आपने कुछ छानबीन और करी with regards to the organizing of the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's also happening at one level is that they have these the local organizers. They are operating at 2 levels. It's almost like they are double teaming in a sense. They've got like decoy teams that don't deal with each other. So there's 2 lots of people that are there. There are about 40 people in all, 42 people that are involved, 20 plus another 20. And it's like they've got another set working pretty much the same kind of a job. This sort of, which if one group falls, they don't deal with each other, they don't come in contact with each other. one of them sort of falls ill or there's a positive test or whatever, then the other people can take over. So they're trying to cover as many bases as they can. They're trying to do that and making sure that there's no, whatever thing happens, if it happens with the players or it happens, then you can't help it. But they're trying to cover that many bases. And I think there's also a sense of almost relief that they're able to go through with this, because they had very heavy rains in Bombay, in Maharashtra last year. It was very tough to get training grounds and pitches and everything ready. So there's just a sense of like, okay, this is actually there, and let's dive into it and see how things go. So they're making all these parallel sort of two sides, saying, okay, let's not get into this kind of almost so if I fall sick and I'm on this team, there's somebody else to pick up the slack if I can't be involved, and I'm not going to be dealing with them, but they know what we're doing, that kind of a. So there's this complex, like I'm hearing all these stories, which is fabulous, but it's a bit scary also, because Omicron is there is a good thing to be said, is that the disease, whenever if you get infected, the turnaround is quite quick. Not to say that you can be up and running, but you won't be suffering grave sort of consequences of it, hopefully, because you're vaccinated and these are young people and all of that.
They will also have undoubtedly
बजट बढ़ गए भाई, बजट बढ़ गए ये कोविड की वजह से. ज्यादा लोग आ गए अब ऑर्गेनाइजिंग कमेटी में. जहां 4 लोग एक काम कर रहे थे, अब 6 लोग आ गए काम करने के लिए.
3 and 3 like that.
3 and 3 ज्यादा लोग आ गए. But it makes sense now. It's a big tournament.
I guess
huge tournament.
The thing to also, on our chat group, one of our studious friends, Mr. Richard Hood, shared a video of Sean Dyche's interview where he's talking about player welfare.
Burnley manager.
Burnley head coach Sean Dyche. Just talking about player welfare in the context of the pandemic, and how at this very, very elite level, how things are taken care of. I think it's really great that finally some women athletes outside of, particularly in this country, who are not in it's not the Olympics after all, it's the Women's Asian Cup. Let's also be a little bit realistic about it. But they are getting that kind of support that all of these countries are sending their teams, and are also confident that even if the worst happens, they will get the best kind of medical support and care where they are. That will give them the best chance then to sort of deal with any infection that might happen. Hopefully, of course, like Sharda was saying, that there are mostly young people who are involved in the tournament, and everyone will be vaccinated, and perhaps some will have even booster shots and all of that. But despite all of those things, we've still seen people getting sick. And when that happens, or if that happens, they are fortunate to have probably access to some of the best care that anyone in this country will. So hopefully that will.
I think a major.
They are fully.
Yeah, Maharashtra.
Because it's in Maharashtra that it's the local government, the government in power is very, very supportive of this.
Always. They've been for so long.
It's like the face of football for the state and all that, and available at a phone call, and all those kind of things that you hear. So they're pretty much high priority for the state government, despite the fact that they're going through again this whole COVID surge and positive numbers and so on. That they understand that, but they say that, okay, we know that if we need help, it's there. The government is with us.
I think one how do I say, progression or कैसे कहते हैं उसे, कि यही चीज अगर आपके पिछले साल हो रही होती डेल्टा से पहले, जब किसी को पता नहीं किस तरीके का डेल्टा हिट होने वाला था, तब शायद आपका टूर्नामेंट बंद हो जाता, कह रहे थे पोस्टपोन. ठीक है जी. अब क्या हो गया कि एक साल आपने झेल लिया है, अब आप कह रहे हो जी टूर्नामेंट पोस्टपोन नहीं होगा, अब उसके इर्द गिर्द हम काम करेंगे चाहे कुछ भी हो जाए. टूर्नामेंट विल नॉट टेक अ बैक सीट. टूर्नामेंट विल स्टिल गो अहेड बिकॉज दिस इज द न्यू नॉर्मल. For how many ever years it will be like this. So that's a good thing to watch. And like what Sharda said, man, Aditya Thackeray, he's not just the face I've seen. He's always there in person. I've spoken to so many people in Mumbai football. He's like always a phone call away.
Yeah.
I had hosted these AIFC, I think the coaches जो All India Football Coaches का है. It was a small gathering of coaches. He made time for it to come in the evening and to come and sit there and hand out the awards. Small thing, but for him to come out, take out time and do that, just shows the kind of backing he's giving him. Even Henry sir, whenever I've spoken to Henry sir, he said he is just so mad about the game and he wants to push the game because, you know, it's not just the game gives you so many other things. You know, kids going in the right direction. It can put people in place, playing sport. He's built grounds in Bandra, mujhe yaad hai. Bandra mein he's sanctioned some new grounds over there and they've come up in no time as well. It's not like कि मैंने जी press में डाल दिया, I'm sanctioning a ground, और ground कभी हमें दिखा नहीं है. Ground आ गया, ground बन गया, वहाँ पे league चल रही है, local league चल रही है and all of that. So I think Maharashtra is a massive boost and I won't be surprised if they pull it off. I'm not saying it'll go off without a hitch. I'm sure there's going to be a hitch. I'm sure there's going to be a case here and there. It's unthinkable that you'll go without any case happening. But despite that, I just think he'll go ahead. That's the main thing.
So, like Siddhant was saying that you know, it's a great sign that for women, for our female athletes, you know, for this team to be there, to be getting this kind of recognition, support, everyone saying, okay, we're going to look after you is a very big thing. The downside of the fact that there is this, we are in COVID, and is the fact that all the other sort of community outreaches that could have happened at this time won't be there. That will really be sad because you would have wanted to see more girls involved, going to schools, you know, all that other kind of the stuff around it that sort of makes a difference, particularly when it comes to women's sport. I think in men's sport it can sometimes just be, it's fine, it's going on, it's there. In women's sport it makes a big difference, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It does, Sharda. But I also have to say, like, just in the last 2-3 years of and this is obviously very, very anecdotal, but the amount of engagement or involvement that I've seen, even anecdotally speaking, of women in football has been huge. For example, the places in Delhi where we play, and it's largely a kind of pick-up games, voluntary kind of scenario. It's not organized as such, or not centrally organized anyway. A lot more women are, and across age groups, of course, perhaps not like in the older bracket, but across
your bracket basically.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but like starting at very young and going on into their 30s and stuff like that, women are starting to be very actively engaged, and you can see the same on social media and all of that as well. It would have been a huge thing to have crowds particularly in these venues, because they are, as it is, largely cosmopolitan cities, which have at least Mumbai does definitely pride itself on how women are part of the workforce, part of every aspect of life in the city. So it would have been great, but like to have this tournament postponed or called off.
Yeah, that's worse, bhai. मैं तो कह रहा हूँ ये है ना कि आप चल रहा है tournament, कोई नहीं.
Whereas in any case, so what you were saying about men's sport, if it was a men's tournament, we might have said, okay, push it off for 6 months. It doesn't make any difference. But in this case, given the preparations that all of the teams have done, I'm sure, given the fact that like Iran, for example, are debutants at the tournament. They're sending a team to the Asian Cup for the first time. Also, to bring to kind of the collective consciousness that this is the 9th time India is playing the final stage at the Asian level. The men haven't done it that often, right? Twice we have been runners-up in this tournament whenever 79 and 83, a long time ago.
Different context, but why?
Completely different context. And since 2003, we have not qualified, right? So in that sense, it's a resurgent process or whatever, revival of women's football in India, which needs to also be get its share of press columns or jo bhi hai. And given COVID, I think some of that attention will be there in the wider press that otherwise would not have. So maybe in terms of actual physical interaction, it will be less, but maybe in terms of press interest and social media interest, it will be a lot more than it's ever been before.
We had decided we'll do 3 topics today. This is the first of our 3 topics. So before we end this topic, क्योंकि भाई ने बहुत footage खाई है.
Sorry.
2 मिनट की बात 2 घंटे लगेंगे वो बोलने के लिए. But मैं आपसे finally पूछ रहा हूँ, साल की शुरुआत है, अभी 11 महीने और हैं. Is this the biggest tournament of the calendar for you?
मतलब in terms of what?
In terms of Indian football, from any point of view, team, play, everything.
Personally, my biggest tournament will be Asian Cup qualifiers for Indian men's team. Personally.
Okay.
I'm not trying to undermine any other tournament. All of the tournaments are big tournaments compared to from their point of view, from their interest of view. But to me, the Asian Cup qualifiers, which will be held under, and India will go under Igos Timac, that will be, if India can qualify, that will be a turning point for Indian football. If India can't qualify, this is going to be very bad, which I have been saying for the last 2 years, and I am against it. To me, that since 2003, as Siddhant, India has not qualified since 2003, as Siddhant has just pointed out, and India has not qualified for this one also. India is there as a host only. I don't know, because what we need from this Indian team, if you bring this tournament on the point, we need a quarterfinal place.
Yeah, you have a group for it. Iran, Chinese Taipei, China भूल जाओ आप. China is a superpower, ठीक है. और आप मैचेस भी देखो. पहला मैच ईरान, फिर Chinese Taipei, फिर China. It works in your favor.
ठीक है. Yeah, that is true. But we have to start with 3 points against Iran.
Yeah.
Iran has qualified. Iran maybe till last year everybody was beating them, but they have qualified by beating Jordan in the finals. They have qualified. So they may be ranked 70th in the world, below India, but that may be because they haven't played too many matches. So I am not just saying that India will come back with 3 points. Chinese Taipei, of course, India had beaten Chinese Taipei only recently. I think a few months back, India had beat China. So we have a chance. It's the best group India could get, actually.
Yeah.
So
and it's also super exciting to be. I'm sorry, like this is putting aside all elements of journalistic neutrality, but it's really super exciting.
What is that, sir?
To be involved in a Asian level football tournament where we actually have a chance of progressing from the group, winning some games. I mean, imagine.
But for that you need. But for
that, a very snarky joke about the men's team, but I will not.
See,
आप कर दो please. यही तो प्लेटफॉर्म है. हंसी मजाक का प्लेटफॉर्म यही है.
नहीं, इसमें क्या है, आपको 4 पॉइंट्स चाहिए. आपको वो 4 पॉइंट मिनिमम चाहिए. Minimum 4 points.
One win draw.
Even if you want to be the best third team among the two best third teams.
Yeah.
So will you get those 4 points? Those 4 points will come from where? Those 4 points will come, according to our estimation, will 3 from Iran and 1 from Chinese Taipei. That's why we are looking at it. So let's see if that comes. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed. That's all.
Okay. Sharda, before you make your snarky joke, can you give us an overview of the tournament format, just in case? I don't know. Everyone can Google it, I guess, but really quick, maybe.
But it's very 12 teams, 3 groups. 2 top teams will go, and the third best team will qualify for the quarterfinals.
भाई क्यों? देखो जी, ब्रॉडकास्ट में रूल है, जब कुछ नहीं है तो मत बोलो. क्यों खाना है फुटेज? हो गई है. गूगल ने आपको बताया, बड़ा सिंपल रूल है. 4 टीमें, 2 टीमें निकलेंगी और थर्ड बेस्ट वाले आपके 2 आई थिंक आएंगे.
लेकिन मेन थिंग ये है कि 5 टीम विल क्वालिफाई फॉर द वर्ल्ड कप and 2 teams will go for the inter confederation.
ये आपने क्या सर समझा? तो 4 सेमीफाइनलिस्ट वर्ल्ड कप के लिए गई.
+1
I think +1 best 5th. 5 will go to the world cup and
बेस्ट
6th
फिफ्थ आप कैसे डिसाइड कर लोगे आप? मुझे ये नहीं समझ में आया. नॉकआउट्स में बेस्ट 5th कैसे आ जाएगा आपके?
गोल डिफरेंस etc.
points etc. and 2 will go for inter confederations playoffs. तो 7 टीम का
potentially 7 teams.
12 में 7 का चांस है वर्ल्ड कप जाने की.
ये तो सर.
So first 3 is Australia, China and Japan. And 1 more team will semi-finals. Whoever makes it, then it's.
देखिए जितनी भी छानबीन करी वुमेन्स फुटबॉल की, because I'll be honest, मैं ज्यादा देखा नहीं है मैंने. I've been away from it from whatever reason. एशिया में हम लोग रैंक्ड हैं 11th. we are 10-11 के बीच में, we are oscillating 10-11 के बीच में हम लोग hover कर रहे हैं। एशिया में जो आपकी पहली 6 टीमें, which includes your China's, your Australia's and so on and so forth, वो 6 टीम टॉप की हैं। उसके बाद जो आपकी 7 to rest, anyone can beat anyone on any given day.
बस
So I feel that makes it all the more exciting. कि जी किसी को पता नहीं क्या होने वाला है। ऐसा नहीं है कि वन साइडेड गेम होने वाला है, या मतलब आप लास्ट मिनट तक 11 के 11 मेंस टीम की तरह बैठे रहोगे, पीछे बम 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 करते रहोगे। तो यहाँ पे वो एक्साइटमेंट एक देखने को मिलेगी और उसके बारे में चर्चा करेंगे।
So that is the main attraction of going to the quarterfinals.
True.
Yes.
That is the main attraction of it.
That you still have a chance of moving to the
semis. Of the goal, or to the World Cup. To the World Cup.
Yeah.
World Cup.
Amazing. So
When
ये
will
नहीं पता
India
था
play
ये।
in the World Cup? Okay, sir. When will India play in World Cup? Now we'll show you girls will go.
That's why Mr. Patel said 2026. So now it will come in 2022. Mr. Patel was very liberal. That's why he said 2026. Actually, he knew it will come in 2022.
आप लोगों ने बड़ी अच्छी चर्चा हुई है। सारे यहाँ पे क्या कहते हैं, पिटारा खोलिए मत, क्योंकि अभी तो बहुत बातचीत करनी है। Just reminding everyone, 20th is the first game. India is playing Iran. I think a day or two before that, we will do a full preview for the tournament from an Indian perspective. We will talk about the players. We will talk about how they play from a footballing point of view. Organizing, सब तेल ले लेंगे आज जब तक. That time we'll only talk football specific, tactics specific, and what we've seen of these girls so far in these last 5-6 months, including a trip to Brazil, which was pretty successful. If you look at the reality of Indian football and the way they turned out and played over there. वैभव रघुनंदन जो हमारे एक और हम सिपाही हैं, उनको हमने हथकड़ी बांध के भेज दिया है बॉम्बे। वो करेंगे वहां से कवर, तो वो भी हमारे साथ जुड़ेंगे इस शो के बारे में और तब चर्चा होगी। 100 लोग आ गए हमारे शो पे, क्योंकि मुकाबला खत्म हो गया ISL में। हैदराबाद हार गई मुकाबला और इट मेक्स सेंस टू ओनली टॉक अबाउट द ISL नाउ, क्योंकि ISL में आई छोटी अड़चन टिश्कियों कोविड की। और जयदीप सर, ये ओडिशा 80 के MB, one player tested positive in 80 के MB, and so the game was postponed, not called off. अभी तक वही है कहानी कि स्प्रेड हुआ है, कुछ हुआ है, या बस वही है, एक ही नेगेटिव पॉजिटिव आया है, आइसोलेट हुआ है एंड केस रिजॉल्व। जी आगे बढ़ो।
जैसे आपने अभी कहा ना कि बिफोर शो यू वर टॉकिंग अबाउट इट कि a new circular has come from the ISL to all the teams.
वो तो बाद में आया, उसके बाद आया ना सर्कुलर। मैं एक बारी बता दूं जो बच्चे हैं जो देख रहे हैं शो, सर्कुलर ये आया है कि अब उस मुकाबले के बाद, पोस्टपोनमेंट के बाद, कि इफ यू हैव 15 प्लेयर्स इन योर स्क्वाड, 15 negative tested players in your squad, then the game goes ahead. If both teams, if one team does not have 15 negative tested players and the other team does have, then the other team is given a 3-0 walkover, 3 points given to them. If both teams don't have 15 negative players, then it's termed a 0-0 draw. Basic thing being, there is going to be no postponement of the schedule. Is that correct, sir? That is the circular?
Yeah, I have this circular. Now we can talk. I have 3 questions on this circular. One is, from where this rule has come. If you look at the FIFA rule, I will come one by one, 3 points I will come. If you look at the FIFA rule says, very clear FIFA rule, it has no substitution rule, nothing. You have 7 players on the pitch. The match is on. The moment you have 6 players, match is over, the other team gets a walkover. You have to have 7 players on the pitch. That is the FIFA rule.
Okay.
See, so, and now they are allowing, most tournaments are allowing 11 plus 10 because we have 5 substitutes. But there is no minimum substitute required in FIFA. FIFA rule says you need to have 7 players. That's all. 7 players can make a team, and referee will not stop it. The moment you have 6, referee will stop it, and the other team will get a walkover. So, okay, one point is this, and I can always also understand the fact that every tournament has a right to frame their own rules, which is allowed by FIFA. So this in this tournament, particular tournament, ISL, they have made it 15 players. Okay, I accept it. So does that mean, my question is, that does that mean that in the Mohun Bagan Odisha match, Mohun Bagan had less than 15 players? That's why the match was postponed?
No, official word is 1. हम तो official word से जा रहे हैं.
Official word. That's why. That is my question is because there is so many rumors is going on. There was actually 5 players. 5 people were positive. 4 players and 1 player's wife. That's a rumor only. I have no. I cannot back it. That's a rumor only. Is that so? If it is not that so, that means it's a knee-jerk reaction. You postponed yesterday's match for only 1 player. Now you are saying you have to have 15 players. Okay. And the third point is, if a team has been given exemption for having just 1 positive case, then every other franchisee and team can stand up and say that for once at least give us that also.
Yeah.
When
should,
we have
ideally.
हाँ कि अगर हमारे पास भी 1 पॉजिटिव है, 1 मैच तो मेरा पोस्टपोन करो, मैं तो बाद में आऊंगा.
I agree.
So these are the 3 questions I have to ask. But how this rule has come, when it was framed, and how many in Mohun Bagan are positives?
Point is कि ये rule, when it is framed, is the key to the argument. Was this rule given to all the franchises before the start of the season? If that was the case, then the other franchises, barring Odisha and or not even barring Odisha, barring ATKMB, should have protested at that decision of postponing the game, saying कि अगर आपने सीजन से पहले ये रूल बनाया है दोस्त, तो अब क्यों आपने पोस्टपोन किया है? अगर उनके पास बंदे नहीं है, 3-0 टू ओडिशा, आगे चलो, खत्म कहानी. पर ऐसा हुआ नहीं है, किसी ने यहाँ पे बोला नहीं है. I am surprised, and I'm so surprised because this is not a league where they are there on, you know, कि ये खेल रहे हैं अपने आप खेल के, पैसे दे रहे हैं. अबे मैंने पैसे दिए हैं, कहाँ है मेरे पैसे? मुझे तो, मैं पैसे दे रहा हूँ और आप मेरे साथ ऐसे रूल्स क्यों आप मेरे को सेट कर रहे हो? These are double standards हो गए ना फिर तो ये.
Question तो 2 ही है, whether Mohun Bagan has been given an exemption or Mohun Bagan had less than 15 pins.
No, the reasoning that's come is, since there was an extra day available, the decision to postpone the game has come. But now after this, no postponement, no change in schedule. Now this rule will apply, and I am not against the rule, to be honest. Having said that, I feel the rule is a good rule. It's a good rule. It puts the onus on the club. ये situation है. नहीं तो आपका ये 4 महीने का लीग, 8 महीने का लीग बन जाएगा ऐसे, हर कट.
तो मतलब Mohun Bagan is a blessing in disguise for Mohun Bagan, ATK Mohun Bagan.
अब ये
it's a blessing in disguise. One of their players have come from Croatia, who has an ACL, so he will get another 7 days. Next match is on 15th to recover. So having a COVID also could be a blessing. So this proves, isn't it? That's what all I can say.
भाई आप कुछ टिप्पणी देना चाहेंगे इस खास सी चर्चा जो हो रही है यहाँ पे? बिकॉज अब जो ये एक घुस गया है अंदर, एक पॉजिटिव आए हैं, इतिहास तो ये गवाह है कि it spreads like wildfire, and I'm guessing, keeping that in mind, this rule has come out, right? Because if it spreads like wildfire, you can't expect the league to kept on getting postponed. आपने रूल निकाल दिया है. छानबीन तो असली जो जर्नलिस्ट होगा वो ये होगा कि ये रूल कब निकला, कैसे निकला, पहले निकला या नीजर्क रिएक्शन पे निकला है. नीजर्क रिएक्शन पे निकला है तो ओनर जो दूसरे टीम्स के हैं वो ढिंडोरे पीट रहे हैं कि नहीं पीट रहे हैं. क्योंकि अगर मैं टीम चला रहा होता और मैं बोलता कि ये क्या हो रहा है, तो मैं तो ढिंडोरा पीटता ना भाई. मैं तो आपको कितने करोड़ दे रहा हूँ? 10 करोड़ दे रहा हूँ साल के खेलने के लिए, उससे ज्यादा दे रहा हूँ. तो मेरा तो हक है.
हाँ, लीग तो मोरलेस दुकानदारी है, तो ठीक है, पैसे दिया है तो आपको देना पड़ेगा.
What you're saying is very valid. What you're saying is absolutely valid, because this is sounding a lot to me what the IPL used to be. Na? They used to invent rules as they go along. At the beginning, the first 2-3 years of the IPL, कुछ भी उन्होंने new rule बना दिया. Now, I'm just anticipating that something like this, I would hope that it was there in their rule book when they are putting this along with their bio bubbles, falana damkana. They should have been there in the rule book, that if this happens, this is what is there. But has it happened or not, that we don't know. Like you're saying.
One more thing, Sharda. One more thing. This rule has been framed and circulated. Tell me one thing. This rule has to be ratified, cleared by the league committee. Has the league committee meeting has been held?
It is sounding so ideal.
I spoke
Let's go IPL 2008-2009.
I spoke to the chairman of the league committee this morning only.
Hmm.
And he never mentioned about all this thing because he didn't know such a rule is coming. I didn't ask him that whether you are holding a meeting or not, because we spoke on some completely different issues, not on this.
So who made the rule? That's the question. Who made the rule?
Who made the rule and who circulated the rule? That is my question.
So you know, like, see, the rule, honestly speaking, the rule is a good rule.
Of course, it's a
good rule. Very good rule. Very good rule. It's the timing of the rule. कि आपने कब निकाला है. And more than that, I am actually surprised that no one else is, no one is raising a stinker about this. Ki, how are you doing this? How is that? Because see, in a league where you're calling it the most competitive league in the country, which it is, it has the best players of the country, best teams of the country. जो आपने 2 पॉइंट गवाए या 2 पॉइंट किसी और को आपने मौका दिया फिर कमाने का, उसका at the end makes a big difference.
तो इसका मतलब अर्जुन इसका मतलब कि यही है. Actually, Mohun Bagan had less than 15 players. ATK Mohun Bagan had less than 15
But if they had less than 15 players, तो फिर आप 3-0 दो. अगर आपके पास less than 3 है,
that would take Odisha up to 5th.
Somebody give me a clear answer on this.
Sir,
all Mohun Bagan has, all ATK Mohun Bagan has. ATK Mohun Bagan has been given.
अगर ATK Mohun Bagan के 15 के कम भी हैं नेगेटिव, तो रूल तो आपका ये कह रहा है लिखित में कि जनाब 3-0 ओडिशा को मिलना चाहिए था.
Correct.
खत्म कहानी.
Which is they are 5th on the league table. I am looking at league table now. They will go up to number 5 and displace Mohun Bagan.
If the 3-0 to Odisha would have been given,
yes,
we would not have been having this conversation.
Yeah. So you are saying, Jaydeep, that they don't have this thing. They don't have 15 men on the park.
No, so one of the things that at least has been a relative positive of this pandemic is that whether, compared to other leagues in the world, let's say the English Premier League, there's a lot less at stake in every game of the Indian Super League, irrespective of what anyone's idea of the ISL might be. The reality of it is that there is no promotion relegation. If you win the league, you don't make suddenly billions of dollars. If you lose the league, you don't either, right? So per game, in terms of sponsorship revenue, in terms of television revenue, in terms of all other factors, there's a lot less at stake. The precedent that's been set since the pandemic has come in is that teams have been mutually respectful in saying that agar ek team mein positive cases ho gaye, and maybe this is being used as a kind of standardized template to deal with COVID-19 outbreaks, right? That agar koi COVID-19 positive test karta hai, so that is considered legitimate grounds to postpone a tournament. Whether 6 or 7 is a matter of being on the pitch. That comes much later. Before that, there's a question of what the tournament kind of wants to do and how each club or each franchise in this case wants to deal with the situation, right? So perhaps in this one case, not raising a stink about it might just be the more sort of humane approach to the scenario. By saying कि ठीक है, अगर उनका एक पॉजिटिव हो गया है तो देखते हैं क्या होता है, because chances are कल को हमारा भी होगा और जब हमारी बारी आएगी then other clubs will react in a similarly hostile manner if today we make a fuss or
चिट्ठा निकल गया है सर चिट्ठा निकल गया है. Point is ये सिचुएशन नहीं आएगी फिर से. That is the thing. चिट्ठा आ गया बाहर लिखित में कि अब अगर आपके 15 के कम है तो 3-0 टू अपोजिंग टीम, खत्म कहानी.
तो कल का मैच क्यों नहीं खेल लिया? एक ही तो था, खेल लेते एक मैच.
आई थिंक या तो ये हो सकता है ना सर कि पहला पॉजिटिव केस आया है कि थोड़ा डर फैल गया है कि शायद दूसरी टीम में भी ना चले जाए और ना फैल जाए, तो आप इसको बंद करो एकदम से, राइट? व्हिच इज फाइन because the approach to COVID and fixing it is like this.
Before, when you are doing this is a big tournament, okay? For you, it's a huge tournament. A lot of money is involved. How could you not have put this in some pre-tournament rule, bhai? Simple thing.
No, but apparently the kids on the chat are saying that it's a rule from the start. It's a rule from the start.
Then why didn't they give 3-0 to Odisha yesterday? Khatam.
Exactly.
Yes.
Odisha.
And
yeah.
why didn't they hold the match yesterday?
In this sort of discretionary approach to it, because while the rules might state A or B or C, it doesn't mean that you have to. That's your only approach.
But what are rules for?
रूल किस लिए होता है फिर? ब्लैक और व्हाइट रूल ब्लैक और व्हाइट करने के लिए ही होता है. ग्रे एरिया हटा देता है.
That is doing most unrevolutionary.
ये आप क्रांतियों वाली बात नहीं कर रहे.
We can have a conversation about why do sport at all in this scenario, na? All this money and all this time and all of this conversation can be saved and applied to much more
important things.
Yeah, practical purposes.
Sir, see, आपने rule बनाया है for a situation. आपने rule बनाया है for a situation. You're foreseeing a situation, so you made a rule that when we do come to that situation, this is how we will follow it.
It would have been counter-revolutionary if revolutionaries had framed the rules in the first place. Unfortunately, corporations are framing the rules.
आ गया. It's good to have you back on the show. आप कुर्ता पजामा पहन के आ जाइए अपना.
We have considered
मेरा कहना है तो
therefore it has to be supported from my perspective.
एक आदमी के लिए पूरा मैच बंद हो गया. ये क्या है? That day Napoli had 4 players or 3 players on the 4 players on the COVID list. They traveled to Juventus to play.
There was a very interesting story. There was a very interesting story in the I League. I'm sure you're all aware of it. Hopefully our friends who are watching are also aware of it. Rajasthan United FC. A very unique situation, right? Now, this is also pandemic related, but also related to larger issues of how things are administered and managed, right? Rajasthan United FC qualified for the I League through the qualifiers.
He is frozen, I think.
Now, there's a whole long story about, and my internet connection, it seems, is unstable.
Maybe that's a sign.
But there's a whole long story about it. Point is, a majority of their players were registered as amateurs, right? Their I League debut was with 9 players on the pitch. They asked their opponents, will you give us 3 more days or 5 more days for the window to open so that we can get the paperwork done? The opponent said no. The AFF said no. Everyone said no. They played with 9. They lost the game 2-0, I think. Right? Fair enough. They also made a little bit of this thing about unsportsmanlike behavior and all, but no one cared too much because end of the day, it was an administrative error that led to the non-registration of players in the right scenario. It had nothing to do with COVID. It had nothing to do with what is called acts of God and all of that stuff. Right? At least, yeah. So at least given pandemic outbreaks, whether it's because somebody's gone clubbing on New Year's Eve and then got the virus, those are other things.
वो क्लबिंग होता क्या है भाई? जमाने हो गए. हम तो नैपियों में सब कुछ साफ कर करके हमारा क्लबिंग तो वही है. भाई पर आप I don't get it. आप इतनी देर से पता नहीं क्या आर्गुमेंट बना रहे हो. मैं तो एक सिंपल सी बात है ना. आपने रूल फ्रेम किया है. Rule has been framed before the start of the tournament. The rule that has been framed before the start of the tournament has been given to every other team in the tournament. By rescheduling that game, if officially, so I'm going by official word, I'm not going by unofficial word. Yeah. If officially one guy is tested positive, the game should have gone on. Right? For whatever reason, you haven't gone on with it, and you've rescheduled that game. A game that should have gone 2 points or 3 points to Odisha and 3 goals in Odisha's favor. You were given 80 MB to regroup and come back and reclaim those points. Right? Kal ko if this happens again, and now the rule is lagu, तो गलत नहीं हुआ है. गलत ही है भाई.
तब then everyone will kick up a fuss, ना? So in my opinion.
नहीं, आपने रूल फेंक दिया बाहर. तो किस लिए आपने वो पब्लिसाइज कर दिया रूल? मेरे को किसी को यहाँ पे पता था रूल के बारे में?
So because
मैं तो नहीं पता था.
You know, because I get notifications every time someone comments on one of our videos or anything else. Right?
It's called dopamine.
Yeah. So after our last chat, all kinds of people are saying like this hate and that kind of hate and that hate. Bottom line is that प्राइवेट टूर्नामेंट हो रहा है, ठीक है, देयर इज नो हेट और नो हेट, ठीक है, प्राइवेट टूर्नामेंट हो रहा है, उसमें प्राइवेट ऑर्गेनाइजर्स आर फ्री टू डू व्हाटएवर द हेल दे वांट. बाकी सब सिर्फ चिट चैट है, सिर्फ पीआर है. कल को उनका मन करेगा वो कुछ और कर लेंगे, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. जो 8 लोग 10 लोग वो टूर्नामेंट खेल रहे हैं, ये इनकी आपसी बात है, अंडरस्टैंडिंग कुछ ना कुछ बात शायद हो गई होगी, क्या पता ना.
नहीं, मैं तो यार सिद्धांत, 2 ही क्वेश्चन है, वेदर I have only
बड़े टाइम से पूछ रहे हैं वो, सेम ही चीज.
only 2 questions to be answered: whether Mohun Bagan got an disadvantage or Mohun Bagan had less than 15 players with that team. Which one is right?
I think
Please explain it to me.
Yes. And I will get shot by some fans. Yes.
सर ठीक है, मैं ना मूविंग ऑन फ्रॉम दिस. बच्चे जो हमारे यहाँ पे कमेंट्स बड़े डाल रहे हैं, उन्होंने लिखा है भाई कभी कमेंट्स भी पढ़ लिया करो. मैं पढ़ देता हूँ थोड़े कमेंट्स एंड देन वी मूव ऑन टू द फाइनल फील गुड फैक्टर ऑफ दिस शो. I'll take a few comments now. Okay, so Jeshmin is on a hate mission with us. So he's saying PhD in football politics this show. कभी फुटबॉल की भी बात कर लिया करो. Jeshmin मेरे दोस्त, देखो यार,
उसको घर बुला लेना भाई.
नहीं ठीक है, it's free to say whatever he wants, as we are free to say whatever we want, so fair enough. Thank you for that, Jeshmin. A lot of people are saying this rule, there's an exception to the rule, that if you test positive on match day then it's different, and if you test a day before the match, then the rule is applied. तो पता नहीं क्या है भाई. If that is the case,
if you're just generally out on New Year's Eve, I mean, no rules apply to you.
No, but I doubt any of these guys are out on okay. Yeah, so most of these guys are saying that, a lot of people are saying maybe ATK Mohun Bagan was ready to play Rudraksh Singh, but organizers were not for preventive measures. Fair point. I think that's a fair point, because on the morning of the match suddenly आपके ऊपर बम फटता है कि जी कोविड निकले है, और कोविड एक ऐसी बीमारी है जो छूने पर ठक 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 it's spreading like a like a chain. So आपने so that the tournament in the long run doesn't get affected in a massive way, you've decided कि एक match को schedule बाद में कर लेते हैं. I'm just thinking from an organizer's point of view. Not easy being an organizer in these times, but ठीक है. अब आगे जी, Renedy Singh. Everyone is saying now please talk about Renedy भाई as a coach. तो ठीक है भाई, अब सत्ता हुई खत्म, फुटबॉल की सत्ता पेश हुई खत्म. अब बात करेंगे हमारे अपने Renedy Singh की, who has taken charge as head coach of Sri Cement East Bengal. I think it's for a number of 4 games, because they sacked their coach midway into the season. Renedy Bhai was the assistant coach. He's taken on, but quarantine rules apply, and the new coach who's coming in, by the time he'll come in and take over, I think Renedy Bhai will have 4 games under his belt. And I'm sure all of you are following ISL, or if not following ISL like me, then catching small clips on Twitter, Instagram, where Renedy Bhai is doing this. सबसे पहले तो हमारे जो 3 की जो पैनल है यहाँ पे, Renedy Bhai को जितना हम जानते हैं, ये किस किस्म का, ये हो क्या सकता है नहीं भाई. आप तो खेले उनके साथ, उन्होंने बड़ी गालियां दी हैं आपको, because he's very super competitive, whether he's playing a 5-a-side, 3-a-side, whatever. ये क्या है?
This was a shout out to South Delhi Dynamos, which originally used to be, there was a time when we were going to call it South Delhi Cobras.
And and if we score a goal, everyone will come like this and go. This is insane. This is like amazing, man.
This whole thing is a bit of an inside joke. That's all it is.
No, but seriously, I mean, it was so refreshing to see Renedy Bhai. Though you have to look at it objectively as well. It was so refreshing to see Renedy Bhai on the touchline, because all of us know him personally and how hard he works at educating himself, and that is one of the characteristics of a good coach. You're always educating yourself. You're always trying to find ways of improving. You're always trying to sort of stay in touch with what's happening in world football. And he's always on that game. He's always got that game going. So keeping aside the fact that here's a legend who's played for so many years for the team, keep that aside. I'm just saying, as a coach, here is someone who always wants to improve, who always wants to educate himself. And it's so refreshing to see him on the touchline, so energetic on the touchline, so emotive on the touchline. And sometimes, someone who's emotive on television can be how do I put it? उसका एक misconception बन सकता है यार ये देखो कितना अच्छा ला रहा है टीम के लिए. It's not always the case कि अलग कोई ये सब वो सब कर रहा है कि टीम पे बहुत फर्क पड़ रहा है यहाँ पे. पर अगर आप results देखें, there's a certain amount of energy on the team. I think he's realized that the quality in the team is not there. So the best way to do it is to just run more than the other team. Simple. Run more than the other team, give them less chances, give them less space. And that is the best way to grind out results. And you've seen that in the 2 games he's taken charge. One was a draw with Bengaluru, and the last one was a draw with who was the second one? With Mumbai City. Yeah, so two solid teams as well. जयदीप सर कैसी लगी आपको टीम? आपने मैच देखे उनके दोनों?
देखा है, मुझे तो अच्छा ही लगा. And he had no foreigners in the second match, I think.
एक फॉरेनर खेल रहा था.
हाँ, और उनका फॉरेनर तो रहना ना रहना सेम है. ईस्ट बंगाल के पास जो
I think उनका टाटा बाय बाय हो गया था उस मैच के बाद.
हो गया, जो भी है. But what I liked most, the team was maintaining the shape.
Exactly.
They had a shape that they were maintaining. And see, we didn't expect anything better from him. वो ड्रॉ कर लिया बहुत है. ईस्ट बंगाल ऐसा टीम है. वो तो मतलब I think that's almost like a win for Renedy. Because इस टीम के साथ जाके 3 पॉइंट लेके आना बहुत मुश्किल काम लग रहा था. शुरू के मैच से ऐसा लग रहा है. But they maintained a shape, and there was some urgency in the team, which was actually previously also they were not in the after 3-4 matches they picked up a little bit. There is no doubt. But in Renedy's 2 matches, the sense of urgency and the ability to maintain a shape despite pressure, everything, that was one thing I really liked.
Sharda, you enjoyed the scenes, refreshing?
Very much. I mean, like what you're saying about him is true. When he comes on the shows and he'll explain things to you, and he's so emotional about whatever he's watching, whatever argument he's making. So other than enjoying what you're seeing on the touchline, and you're seeing all his sort of dance moves and everything, at the same time, it was like you think, what are you trying to say? You know, what coaches are saying. There's a really good clip of Thierry Henry trying to coach his team in the sideline. It's just mad. They're just screaming. So, but the good thing was, BFC's had a very bad tournament, as we are saying. But Mumbai City are like a top team. 1 or 2, they were leading this thing. You are able to basically just take all the attack that they are giving to you. You are able to defend. You are able to stop them from scoring. You know, it's like that's the great thing about football, where even 0-0 becomes a great thing for teams that are much below in terms of form and players and performance that you've had. So it was great to watch him. I am very excited when Indian coaches are involved in it, because I think that the rule that they have, whether it's a written or unwritten rule, that only foreigners will be head coach, is a bit silly. And so it's great to see the fact that there are Indian coaches.
Three in total right now, in fact. Derek, Renedy, exactly. And Khalid.
And Godfrey Pereira, no? Yeah.
Derek.
Sorry. Sir.
From time to time.
No, Clifford was there last year.
No, but 3 right now. 2 interim and one permanent coach.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. Hopefully,
Renedy is the most inexperienced among the 3.
Yes.
He looks like he could play. He's in such, he's so fit. He looks like he could get.
That's what I say. That's very creditable.
And he wants to run onto the park and play. He looks like that.
That's part of the progression, Annie bhai. To jitna aap aur touchline pe karoge, the more you'll be able to control your emotions. You'll be able to sort of gather your emotions. When you really want to, exude, or when you want to control yourself, that comes with spending time on the touchline. So it's pretty evident in Renedy. It's new to Renedy on the touchline. At the highest level.
I've seen him coaching under 8s, under 12s. Under 14s.
कितनी गालियां खाई हैं आपने, पहले ये बताओ, because you played with them, वो बड़ी गालियां देते हैं वो खेलने के बाद.
Competitive होता है. मुझे तो गाली तो देता ही रहता है सारे टाइम. वो बात अलग है. But like the level of engagement, this is not, of course, at a super elite level head coach of a team that is like there are 16, 17 cameras in the stadium is a whole different scenario. But the point that I find really worth mentioning is that the level of engagement that he has, what you see on the touchline from him here at East Bengal, a club with 102 years of history. is the same level of emotions or emotiveness and engagement that you see when he's coaching his under 12s and his under 14s and his under 16s. Right? When they are playing a game against whoever they are playing, whatever is happening, same. Post-match, same intensity. Halftime, same intensity. So, yeah, of course, for him, it's a learning process. And I think we've talked at length about how important it is for both players and coaches and everyone to be where the buck stops, not pass on the responsibility for either.
No, but bhai, from an entire point of view, I think the thing is, it's very different from taking over as the coach from the start of the season. Interim point of view, you're taking over knowing someone is coming to take over.
Yeah.
You're just tapering over the cracks, so it doesn't break up open completely.
And in Renedy's case, particularly, it's made so much of an impact in terms of this East Bengal squad, because like you guys have pointed out, there are not so many foreigners, right? So it's Indian boys with whom he has a relationship, who have a certain level of respect and whatever for him. Perhaps they can understand one another, how they communicate, where they've come from. I don't know. Might be many things. But you've seen this response from a largely Indian squad, which is all the more sort of, I don't know. It's cool to see as a starting point. Let's not read too much into it, because it's not going to last forever. Things will change, of course. And yeah.
Arjun?
As of now, yes, I hope someone is making really good memes, because this is like gold.
Oh, man, this is actually gold. This though is like a dust diya, bhai. Aapko dust diya aapne.
जो भी कर रहा है सारा टाइम
Hey, sir.
Arjun, can I leave? I have something. Arjun.
Okay, sir. So thank you so much for joining us. We're also ending. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I just want to say that I think हमारा time भी हो गया है. Much love to Renedy bhai. Good, so nice to see him on the touchline. And I think he's got 2 more games where he's the head coach. So we wish him all the best. मैं वैसे एक बता दूं, जब से वो head coach बन के वो वहाँ पे आ गए, मैंने कहा जी यार Renedy भाई का इंटरव्यू करते हैं, हेड कोच इंडियन. पहले मैंने फोन उठाया, मैंने रेनेडी सिंह, मैंने कहा वहां फोन करूं, नहीं, अब मीडिया ऑफिसर के थ्रू फोन करना पड़ा मेरे को. उसको मैंने बोला यार कैन वी गेट एन इंटरव्यू विद योर हेड कोच, because I don't want to jump that thing यार, then थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम हो जाता है. प्रॉपर वो दूसरी बात है, मीडिया ऑफिसर ने फोन उठाया नहीं, तो मैं फिर से फोन करूंगा. And we'll try getting an interview with Renedy Singh, not as a friend of the show, but as coach of Shri Cement East Bengal, and sort of get his take on those 4 games, the 4 games that he has taken over as the coach. But it's refreshing, man. I just hope, in many ways, many positives have come this season for Indian football from this league. You've dropped 1 foreigner, you've got more Indians playing. Eventually, first has started saying, yeah, they're not being able to cope with it. Quality of the game is going down, but they've caught on with it. And plus, now you've got the maximum number of Indian coaches running a team, interim or not interim. But तो उसका कहीं ना कहीं फायदा हो रहा है. I think Goa showing faith in Derek. That's a big positive, man. Huge positive. That your coach has been plucked for cash from a COVID positive team.
Seriously. Yeah.
And you've gone with Derek. You haven't gone for another Spaniard or something like that. You stuck with Derek, and I think that's a major boost in the arm. So ठीक है जी, मजेदार. Nice conversation. Sharda, thank you so much for your time. Annie, thank you so much for taking our time.
It's been a privilege.
It's been a privilege. Yeah, it's been a privilege. And to all of you, man, listen. यार आपको ये क्यों सर लग रहा है कि ये फुटबॉल की हम सिर्फ सत्ते की बात करते हैं, फुटबॉल की बात नहीं करते? देखिए जी, गेम की भी बात भी करेंगे, ऐसी बात नहीं है. पॉइंट ये है कि अगर आप देख सकते हैं कि फुटबॉल हर दिन बैठ के नहीं देखा जाता भाई, तो हम लोग उसके बारे में टैक्टिकली कितना बात करेंगे. बट ये पॉइंट इज कि वी विल रेगुलरली फॉर द कमिंग एशियन कप वी विल गो बिग ऑन इट, preview the games, try talking about tactics, because that's where the Indian team is playing. And बीच में इन चर्चाओं के बारे में बात करना बहुत जरूरी है भाई. We have people on the show who have lines to these places, so they can get you more than what you're reading on a headline. why would you not want to hear that? So, we must thank all these people for taking out their time and coming on the show and giving us their valuable insights and, taking a podcast or video cast to greater heights. So that's that. Sharda, thank you so much for your time. Annie, once again, pleasure मेरे भाई. And I think आज आप अलग ही लेवल पे आ गए हो क्योंकि आज 9:05 पे शो शुरू हो गया था. 9 बजे का हमने इश्तेहार डाला था
9:03 पे शायद.
और बच्चों ने भाई क्रेडिट किया है. उन्होंने लिखा है चैट पे, सर क्या बात है, ऑन टाइम. हाँ, we were expecting it to be late, 9:30 or something.
One or two guys were saying हम late आए.
मतलब उल्टा उन पे खेल दिया. ठीक है जी. So 20th is India's first match of the Asian Cup. So the 18th in all likelihood is when we're going to be doing a preview to India's tournament. Do join us then.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you so much for watching.
Absolutely, we will be. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.